Commander Zixithara's three eyes blinked in rapid succession, a biological response her species reserved for moments of extreme confusion. She watched the security footage for the seventh time, her chitinous fingers trembling slightly as they hovered over the holographic controls. "Play it again," she commanded, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into galactic standard. The footage rewound. There, in the cafeteria of the interstellar vessel Harmony's Promise, the incident unfolded once more. A Quilnari crew member, his 6 arms flailing in panic, had accidentally knocked a cutting implement off the preparation counter. The blade tumbled through the air, spinning end over end in the ship's standard gravity, and then the human moved. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb had been standing 3 meters away, engaged in conversation with a Thelian botanist. But the moment the knife began its descent, something changed. Without turning his head, without any apparent visual confirmation, the human's hand shot out. His fingers closed around the handle with casual precision, stopping the blade's rotation as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. He glanced at the knife, shrugged, and placed it back on the counter. Then he continued his conversation as if nothing remarkable had occurred. Zixithara felt her primary heart skip a beat. "How?" whispered Subcommander Telmoth, his blue-scaled face paling to an almost white hue. His reaction time: "It's impossible. Our sensors recorded a 0.14-second response window. No species in the known galaxy has reflexes that fast, not even the Kreshtar warrior caste." "It's worse than that," Zixithara said, manipulating the hologram to display the kinetic analysis. "Look at the trajectory calculation." He didn't just react quickly. He predicted where the handle would be. The knife was still rotating when he began moving. He solved a complex physics problem in a fraction of a second and executed a perfect intercept. "This is one human," Telmoth said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We have 15 aboard this vessel." The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The Galactic Council had been so careful when humanity had been discovered. First contact protocols had been followed to the letter. Humans were primitive by galactic standards, barely having achieved faster-than-light travel. Their weapons were crude. Their ships were inefficient. Their technology was millennia behind the Council's. They had seemed safe, manageable, but nobody had tested their reflexes in practical scenarios. Nobody had watched them move in crisis situations. The bureaucrats had looked at human technology and assumed biological limitations to match. "Pull up the incident reports," Zixithara ordered. "All of them. Every human interaction logged since they came aboard." The holographic display filled with data. Zixithara's eyes widened as she scanned through the entries, seeing them now with new understanding. 3 weeks ago, human crew member Lieutenant Sarah Chen had prevented a coolant leak by manually closing a valve that was failing. The valve required 340 newtons of force to operate. Chen had sealed it in 1.7 seconds. The repair team had assumed the initial damage assessment was wrong, because no species could generate that much force that quickly, without powered assistance. 5 weeks ago, human technician James Rodriguez had caught a falling maintenance drone worth 45,000 credits. The drone had been in freefall in the cargo bay's microgravity section. Rodriguez had calculated its trajectory, pushed off 3 different surfaces, and intercepted it before it collided with sensitive equipment. The incident had been logged as lucky. 7 weeks ago, the entire human contingent had volunteered for the emergency repair of the external sensor array during a solar storm. They had worked in conditions that would have killed most species, repairing systems with their gloved hands while radiation readings climbed. They had joked about it afterward. "They're not just fast," Zixithara said, her voice hollow. "They're durable, adaptable. They have spatial awareness that borders on precognition, and they don't even realize it's unusual." Telmoth brought up comparative biology data. "Commander, look at their homeworld statistics. Earth's gravity is 1.4 times our standard. Their atmospheric pressure is higher. Their planet is filled with predators that could tear apart most Council species. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion." "Days?" Zixithara repeated. "Their endurance is extraordinary, and their history..." Telmoth scrolled through the cultural database. "Commander, they've been in near-constant warfare for their entire recorded history. Not just between species, but within their own population. They've been training to fight each other for 10,000 years. Zixithara thought about the war. The real reason humanity had been contacted early, before they were truly ready. The Krenth swarm was advancing from the galactic edge, consuming everything in its path. The Council was losing. They needed every species they could find, even primitive ones. They had thought they were recruiting cannon fodder, bodies to slow the swarm while the advanced species developed better weapons. But what if they had done something else entirely? Pull up the human military assessments, she ordered. The data appeared. Humanity had sent military observers, as was standard for new Council species. But these weren't the primitive warriors the Council had expected. These were specialists in something humans called special operations. They had moved through the Council's elite training courses like water through a cracked hull, breaking records that had stood for centuries. The Council had assumed the training courses were too easy. They had assumed the humans had cheated somehow. "Oh, ancestors," Zixthera breathed. "We didn't recruit them. We challenged them." On the display, Marcus Webb finished his conversation and walked away, his movements efficient and controlled. Every gesture spoke of coiled potential, of reflexes honed by a savage world and a violent history. The message indicator on Zixthera's console blinked. "Priority alert from Council Central Command." She opened it with a trembling manipulator. The Krenth swarm had engaged human forces for the first time at the frontier colony of New Shanghai. Initial reports were impossible. The humans had counterattacked. The swarm, which had never retreated in 500 years of expansion, had withdrawn. Human casualties minimal, Krenth casualties catastrophic, and the humans were requesting permission to pursue. Zixthera looked at the frozen image of Marcus Webb on her screen, the man who had caught a falling knife without thinking, and she understood the truth at last. The galaxy hadn't recruited humanity for the war. Humanity had recruited the galaxy for theirs. She began composing her report to the Council, her manipulators shaking. They would need to revise every assumption they had made about their newest allies, because the humans weren't the primitive species that needed protection. They were the apex predators, and they had just realized there was new prey in the universe.